A very good evening to all our viewers. For once, you actually see me inside a studio and not by the roadside at the line of control in Jammu or in Punjab. As we finally return after more than a fortnight on the ground, getting into Delhi from Punjab, one of the regions that has been at the epicenter of Pakistan drone attacks that were thwarted and other anxieties like blackouts, air raid sirens. Well, the Prime Minister was at the Adampur base today. And the messaging of that cannot be understated. Adampur base is one of those bases where Pakistan made all sorts of claims about damaging an S-400 system. Well, it will be very interesting for me to show you what the visual backdrop was as the Prime Minister spoke. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. The Prime Minister, that's the image. The Prime Minister today chose, without pointing it out overtly, chose to make his backdrop such that it automatically debunked Pakistan's false claims about the damage that Pakistan claimed it had inflicted on the Adampur airbase in Punjab. Those images that you're seeing on your screen are of the Prime Minister making an unannounced visit to meet air warriors at the Adampur base. Remember, alongside Jammu and Kashmir and some parts of the western border, it is Punjab and multiple towns and cities of Punjab, including Amritsar, that have been targeted by Pakistan after Operation Sindoor. In fact, kamikaze drones were taken down over Amritsar. Bhatinda military station was targeted by Pakistan. But as the Indian military briefing made clear, not even one military base of India is not operational, and each is ready for the next mission. This image speaks for itself. The Prime Minister was fact checking Pakistan, even as three terrorists, and you can move on to the next image now, even as three terrorists were killed by the Indian army in an encounter, in a anti-terror operation, as it were, in Shupaya in the Kashmir Valley. Meanwhile, late last night, minutes after the Prime Minister spoke, perhaps even as in a desperate response to it, drones were once again sighted and intercepted over some parts of Jammu. Those images are from Samba in Jammu, where we were till just 24 hours ago. We'll wait to see what happens tonight, but some flights to airports in border states had to be cancelled today because of blackouts and because of these drones. But the Prime Minister is sending a very clear message, and his message, according to me, isn't just to Pakistan. It seems to be to Donald Trump as well, because Trump every day obsessively now seems to be making a statement about how he mediated some sort of deal between India and Pakistan. In his speech last night, the Prime Minister said, "हम अपनी शर्तों पे और अपने तरीके से जवाब देंगे." Before we play out new clips from the Prime Minister's speech at the Adampur base, let me introduce our guests on the program today as we try and decode what these two speeches are telling us about the state of play between India and Pakistan. Brigadier Sandeep Thapar, I should say, military veteran, is with us. Welcome to the program. And also joining us is veteran diplomat, Ambassador Yash Sinha, who's spent many years of his life tackling Pakistan. I think Rajat Sethi should be with us momentarily as well. We'll get started by playing out this statement from the Prime Minister's speech as he met air warriors.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर कोई सामान्य सैन्य अभियान नहीं है। ये भारत की नीति, नियत और निर्णायक क्षमता की त्रिवेणी है। भारत बुद्ध की भी धरती है और गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी की भी धरती है। गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी ने कहा था, 1.25 से एक लड़ाऊं, चिड़ियन ते मैं बात तुड़ाऊं, तबे गुरु गोविंद सिंह नाम कहाऊं। अधर्म के नाश और धर्म की स्थापना के लिए शस्त्र उठाना, ये हमारी परंपरा है। इसलिए जब हमारी बहनों बेटियों का सिंदूर छीना गया तो हमने आतंकियों के फन को उनके घर में घुस के कुचल दिया। भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! वो कायरों की तरह छिप कर आए थे, लेकिन भूल गए उन्होंने जिसे ललकारा है वो हिंद की सेना है। आपने उन्हें सामने से हमला करके मारा। आपने आतंक के तमाम बड़े अड्डों को मिट्टी में मिला दिया। 9 आतंकी ठिकाने बर्बाद हुए। 100 से ज्यादा आतंकियों की मौत हुई। आतंक के आकाओं को अब समझ आ गया है भारत की ओर नजर उठाने का एक ही अंजाम होगा।
All right, so एक ही अंजाम होगा warning there. The second warning in I would basically say in less than 24 hours. How do we read these speeches coupled together? What is the message, Ambassador Sinha? India has never used the word ceasefire. The word used by India is understanding. That understanding was broken within 2 hours of its announcement. I was in Jammu on the evening that the announcement was made, and a drone flew over my head where I was sitting in the heart of Jammu city. Much worse happened not far from Jammu in areas like Samba and Akhnur. What are we, how would you define the present state of play when you look at the message emanating from both speeches of the Prime Minister this morning and last night?
Barkha, thank you for having me again on your show. I think the messaging is very clear. We have suspended operations. There's, as you said, an understanding. But if Pakistan continues to violate that understanding, then there will be a robust response. So, very clear, the new normal is that we will respond to any attacks. Now, Pakistan can send a few drones across. There's a blackout in Amritsar. Flights are rescheduled. Now, these are pinpricks, but they cause problems. And if this continues for over the next few days, then I'm sure there will be a response from India. But I think two things I'd like to point out. One, the most brilliant move of the Prime Minister to go to Adampur and tell the whole world that, Pakistan, what it was peddling, the pack of lies, that the Adampur base is well and functioning and our S-400 batteries are very much intact. In fact, I think the sort of make-believe world that the Pakistanis live in has become rather clear now. I mean, the initial narrative was Pakistan peddling lies and getting away with it. Now, with all the pictorial evidence of bases destroyed and runways, I don't know if I mentioned to you that Noor Khan base, I've landed quite a few times there myself.
Oh, you
But
have. You
so
have.
yes, 6 to 7 times. The first time was the 1st of January 1994.
Well,
These only,
we're playing the
yeah,
damaged Noor Khan Air Base for you now.
yeah. So it was
Go
called the
ahead.
PF Chaklala base at that time, and then it's now the Noor Khan. So I think the psychological impact of hitting Noor Khan Air Base, the capital, it's near the international airport, like the common sort of facilities. It's nearer Rawalpindi, so near GHQ. It has a massive impact, and of course, the attack on Sargoda. Again,
Yeah.
again, very significant, and not just Sargoda, but the other sites, Rahim Yar Khan and others have sent a very clear message that your air defenses don't work against our missiles and our planes. So, I mean, if you try and escalate matters, and that is why, and I'm sure you're aware of that it was General Asim Munir who called Rubio and seeking American intervention, or so it was basically they're getting desperate. And now it's again a sign of desperation, pinpricks of sending drones, etc. It won't work. And I think the MEA has just given a briefing that the Indus Water Treaty will remain in abeyance. I'm glad because it is contingent on good behavior on the part of Pakistan. They eschew cross border terrorism. Till then, the treaty is in abeyance. So I think messaging to Pakistan is very clear and very loud.
It's interesting that you call the drones pinpricks because they are exactly that, but pinpricks have consequences that impact regular folk, like cancelled flights, right? So it's going to be very important to see whether these pinpricks continue over the next few days. And I'll bring in Brigadier Thapar in just a minute because on the military dimension. But in terms of messaging, Rajat, I want to bring you in because
Go.
although I had barely time to look at social media when I was on the ground, I saw one comment by you on Pakistan's provocation on the day this quote unquote ceasefire, because Trump calls it a ceasefire, we don't, was announced. And I think you, like many others, I wondered, because as I always say, I woke up at 5 a.m. to explosions, and by 5 p.m., and I thought that morning, and Brigadier Thapar was on the program with me, and he said, this is all out war because bombs were falling in colonies. They were, as they were getting intercepted, the debris of it was falling in colonies, in temple complexes, in villages, in their homes. A missile was intercepted in Haryana. And by evening, we were suddenly talking about halting hostilities. Since then, I think the Prime Minister has tried to message something quite different. This is not a ceasefire. This is not the end of hostilities. This is a pause to see what Pakistan does next. How do you see the messaging since then? And are you less agitated in a way at everything that's happened?
Well, Barkha, I think this has been a very, very complex emotional ride for all of us who were observing it from periphery. There was a degree of expectation, largely wrongful, I would say. See, whenever an operation or a military operation more specifically is conducted, certain objectives are set out right from the outset. Those objectives, I don't think, change midway. If India pounded their air bases, it doesn't mean that we will go in and annex Balochistan and get back Pakistan occupied Kashmir. It doesn't happen like that. But largely because of the sentiment which mainstream media tried to create, lot of public started riding onto that narrative that as if our armed forces are going to move in. And I believe this is where a lot of people were expecting a crescendo to end the campaign on, which abruptly ended. And I think this is where a lot of very senior people from the defense and from the government and all felt as if this happened all of a sudden and we were not able to reach to a logical conclusion. And I think that was a wrong assessment of the overall operation and the success of operation. It's not because we were losing at any point, the way Pakistan, like people there are jumping on the streets of London to Islamabad and Karachi. Clearly not. It's like we extracted a greater pound of flesh and we got a lesser one. That was the disconnect between the expectation and the reality. I think what Prime Minister did, his address, why it was so important, not just for his base, but for the larger country also, is he said that, see, my core operation was to attack terror camps. That has been done ruthlessly. And he kept pointing out for half the speech, he did not say that, okay, we had larger objectives, etc. He just said that I had very clear objectives defined and we not just succeeded, we overmet those goals. And I think that is where things condensed. He also mentioned, I mean, a lot of analysts fell for the trap and the entire opposition has fallen for the trap that Trump somehow carries a greater weight or a greater trump card, so to say. Not true at all. We all know how President Donald Trump preempts everything and goes out and tweets and puts a post on his Truth Social and all of that. He doesn't care about the greater ramifications, the sensitivity involved, the nuances involved. I mean, why do you want to fall prey 3:30 p.m. till 5 p.m.? During that 1.5 hours, while the matters were being escalated by DGMOs to reach to that conclusion, he went ahead and tweeted about it. But that is not the problem of India. That is his problem, the American problem, and they should deal with it. It doesn't mean that we gave away our autonomy. We gave away the clear principles that we have set on bilateral terms. I think all of these complex things, Prime Minister was able to settle down, allow even the voices within the country to be rationalized, and even an opposition who was baying for his blood also should understand the larger implications that he laid forth.
I do agree with you that I thought when he said in his speech कि हम अपनी शर्तों पर अपने तरीके से respond करेंगे. I'm summarizing him, but that's the phrase he used. He was messaging Trump as well, or he was messaging this perception that Trump is dictating what we do next or don't do next. So that was very important. But Brigadier Thapar, from a military perspective, another military veteran I was speaking to, General Atta Hasnain, he made the argument that when conflicts end, the shutter doesn't come down. It is a process. It draws down. It doesn't just end. And we have to be ready for a few skirmishes, a few provocations. Is that how you see it? Because why would Pakistan be sending in drones, even if they're not armed, even if they're probing drones, even if they're surveillance drones? You have to understand that India, and I think it's good that this week happened because a lot of people demand war but don't understand what it means. For a post-war generation to see blackouts, air raid sirens, drones over their heads, and then flights cancelled, it's not normal. And if this is going to continue to happen, and I don't know if it will, after those initial sightings, the army said no further drones were sighted. So let's see what happens tonight. Do you see it as pinpricks or do you see it as more significant?
Just pinpricks, Barkha. I know the Pak Army mentality so well, having served on the LC. They're in the habit of doing these kind of things. After a ceasefire has been declared, in one particular, some odd sector, they'll come out with a little bit of firing just to show. You see, they know in their mind that they are not no match to us. But the message that they've been fed that we are one soldier is equivalent to 1,000 Indian soldiers and all, and that we are more than them. So they've got to show off. I think I gave the example to you earlier also. They when this Air Force officer after Balakot was captured there, he was to release at 3 o'clock. Message came 3 o'clock. Media from the entire world was there. I was with the TV channel at that time, and they told me 3 baje, sir, please be present. I said they will not hand over at 3 o'clock. They will not hand over before 10. They keep troubling people. So sure enough, they handed over close to midnight. It's nothing. There was nothing keeping them wait. That guy was sitting there in the guest room. So is that habit of doing that. Now, this is what is happening now. These drones are in all probability unarmed. They just sorry to use that phrase, panga lene wala baat hai ki I'm sending something just to harass you and come back. They don't mean anything. It's not starting the war. Since your prime minister said ceasefire or words equivalent, we have to show you we don't care. Damn, we will do this. So this is in their blood. I've experienced it on many occasions. So don't look too much into it. Now I want to go back a little on the messaging part. You see, what in my wisdom I could be wrong. And what happened was that we went for that stayed 2 officers and the foreign secretary doing the proper military briefing. This is what happened, gentlemen, and this is what we did, and then move. What they did was a very clumsy drum rolling kind of a propaganda, which lacked gravitas, no tangible proof, but they set for 7th, 8th, up to 9th morning, they set the agenda of the narrative. And frankly, lot of people on social media were following them and believing what they were saying. That's where when we woke up and your DGs came first day, they gave the actual thing. Then when they realized that it had worked a little, not much, again next day they came, yesterday was it, when that fantastic Lily and Thomo example which he gave. Then in the evening, this is all in sequence. The Prime Minister gave a speech where he told them, listen, and what was the most important part for me in that, when my Prime Minister says that the Pak DGMO rang up our DGMO at so-and-so hours to ask for ceasefire. And I tweeted, I said, I challenge the Pakistani trolls. I said, can you get your prime minister on air to say no? It was Pak DGMO, or it was the Indian DGMO. You can't. So that, and today is the finale. Prime Minister going, disproving this thing of Adampur having been targeted, the S-400. See, this is there are two types of visits, of VIP visits. Barkha led me into army station. One is a visit after a setback. What happens if VIP goes? First, he goes into a closed door briefing kind of thing. Kya hua? Kaise hua? Kyo hua? Okay, then he probably goes to that site if he's been struck with the commanders and all. Then probably on a somber note, he'll meet the troops, he'll talk to them. Whereas when you go, victorious person goes, he goes like this, proper, he makes a speech, talks to the troops, has a cup of tea, everyone's laughing. Look at that, look on the face of the boys. This is a victorious station. This has not been targeted. So that's what shows, that disproves the Pakistani agenda.
Yeah, I think that's very interestingly sequenced there. The messaging to Pakistan, we all seem to be on the same page about. There's greater debate about the Americans and what they're up to. Rajat just said that Trump is Trump. He likes preempting everything. But Trump has gone, JD Vance has gone from saying it's none of our business, which is what he said to Fox News, to Trump making almost a daily statement. And his most recent statement has just been rubbished by the MEA. But I'm going to play it because he's not Shehbaz Sharif, the prime minister of a rogue state. He is the president of a country that we otherwise have a deep relationship with. So I'm going to play out Donald Trump's latest statement. Take a look.
Again, let me say a few words about the historic events that took place over the last few days. On Saturday, my administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire, I think a permanent one, between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases, and having these. They really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have.
Now, Ambassador Sinha, the MEA has moments ago reacted to this. The MEA spokesperson, Mr. Jaiswal, was asked about it, and he said there's no conversation about trade. There was no linkage. India has rubbished this linkage, but this is Donald Trump, and he makes. Firstly, he doesn't understand, or he's not briefed. He keeps referencing some 1,000-year-old battle between India and Pakistan when Pakistan didn't exist till, X number of years ago. My question to you is, what is going on here? Why is he embroiling himself in this matter to this degree?
Barkha, I've been told by a senior colleague that I use the word bizarre far too often in my appearances. But for the lack of a better word, I can only repeat that word bizarre, because, we shouldn't you have to take them seriously, because it's POTUS, the most powerful man on earth. And yet, I'm not sure whether even he knows what he is saying, because, trade deals are all very good. You use it as a leverage, and a lot of people do use trade deals, etc., as leverage, but not to implement ceasefires. And in any case, where is the equivalence between a trade deal with India and a trade deal with Pakistan? This sort of false equivalence that and not just President Trump, but others are drawing is ridiculous. So I think MEA rightly rubbished it, because the trade deal is on its own track, and whatever we do with the US has nothing to do with the ceasefire or our relations with Pakistan. But I think we shouldn't read too much into it, because he's trying to insert himself. To be fair, I think in the previous crises that we've had with Pakistan, whether it was Balakot or whether it was Kargil before that, or even 26/11, I think not 26/11 so much because there was no kinetic reaction,
Correct.
but I think the Americans have, because they probably feel that two nuclear powers shouldn't be going at each other. But besides that, I don't think in this particular case it's very clear that Asim Munir called Rubio seeking American intervention because he saw what happened in Sargodha and Rawalpindi, etc. And the Indian strikes went in with impunity. I mean, they were not really challenged, or even if they were, I think we were able to overcome those challenges rather easily. So I think our superiority, and despite what Hina Rabani Khar said, that the Indian superiority, conventional superiority, the myth has been busted. I think it's been reinforced with these actions. So I think, as far as President Trump is concerned, even if he tries to mediate or insert himself on an issue like Kashmir, for instance, he will be told very clearly where to get off. So I don't think we should. I mean, obviously, we need to brief the administration, brief him in particular about the history and the situation there. But more importantly, I think we need to ensure that there is no equivalence drawn. Here is a country, state sponsoring terrorism as an instrument of state policy, and here you have the fourth largest power in the world. He probably understands economics, so perhaps that would be the road to go down. Explain to him how India is a very valuable market and how India and the US can do a lot of trade together. So I think it's important that the right messaging is conveyed to White House and to Washington.
Now, the Western media has been absolutely painful, gallingly biased, and more on that later about my own experience debating Hina Rabani Khar on the Piers Morgan show. But the New York Times had this piece where they say that basically, eventually, Munir reached out to the Americans because he was scared that India was going to basically take out Pakistan's nuclear command. They were terrified. That this is what the New York Times says. Now, at the military briefing, this question was asked, and Air Marshal Bharti, who by the way I've discovered is hilarious. He has such a sharp sense of humor. Very caustically shuts down that question in this way. I'm just going to play it out. Take a look.
Thank you, sir. Snesh Philip here from the print. So the social media, the Twitter is abuzz with the fact that we hit a site called Kirana Hills, which is supposed to be the nuclear storage facility. And there is a lot of rumors about Sargodha. There are foreign analysts who've mentioned that the Sargodha attack led to certain leaks. Is there a confirmation that we actually hit Kirana Hills, or we were careful of not to do any such thing? Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I love that poker faced, we did not know what there is, very caustically put down. But what do we make? One of the important things that the Prime Minister said, Rajat, is nuclear blackmail is no longer acceptable. And that has been the oldest trope in the world. Every time India has had kinetic response to Pakistan, somewhere or the other, some New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian will write, there was going to be a nuclear war. And either the Western governments don't understand this region, or they actually believe it, or they're briefed poorly. I don't know. But there's a lot of that talk. Once again, Trump also reinvoked it today. When Modi said, no more nuclear blackmail, what should we read into it? Because he's addressing this surround sound.
Right. So, in my understanding, forget about the West. For them, India is equal to Pakistan is equal to nuclear weapons. That's the shabby level understanding of the West. Their geopolitical understanding was quite evident with the way with which CNN covered this war or this operation.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so it's shoddy work, shoddy journalism coming in from folks who claim to be sitting in these tall towers of journalism. But leaving that aside, I think what Prime Minister and what our top defense leadership did not want to talk about was this nuclear, this N word. They did not want to bring in any of the briefings. Prime Minister just mentioned it once. While look at President Trump, his starting President Rubio, Secretary Rubio, all of these people only talked about nuclear. They wanted to, showcase as if this is a nuclear, a conflict heading towards a nuclear conflict. But Prime Minister was very clear, and even our defense leadership. The reason is they do not want to, give this advantage to Pakistan that whenever a conflict happens or a terror operation happens, they can do the saber rattling of nuclear word. That is something that we have to strategically deny. And this is the reason you will see damage done, radiation fallout, this, that, all of that. No official confirmation or denial is going to happen from Indian government on this topic. The sheer reason being they do not want to give Pakistan this advantage, which it always shelters under, that it is the nuclear power that we should be concerned about. Therefore, there will be no mention of nuclear or nuclear angle to any conflict, not now, not in the future. This is how we will bereft them of this psychological advantage that Pakistan wants to frame around itself.
Right. Brigadier Thapar, you want to add to that? And as well as Ambassador Sinha on this whole sort of nuclear shadow that Pakistan always thrusts, and it doesn't just thrust it onto India. It is the kahani that it takes to the dunya. It takes every time. I mean, there's such a sense of deja vu. Every editorial in the West ends with, oh, danger of escalating nuclear war.
See, that's the standard Pakistani response. The moment something like this happens, 26/11, two things. One is, give us the proof. Let's have a independent and this thing inquiry into it, a neutral kind of thing. Because that is not going to happen. Even if it comes to a conclusion, nobody's going to accept it. And second is, we are a nuclear power nation. So it was made, and once for all, the Prime Minister made it very clear that nuclear or no nuclear, we are going to keep doing this. If you keep doing what you do in J&K, you wait for this kind of treatment. And I don't think that targeting, as the Air Marshal said, though his answer more tongue-in-cheek, I don't think they deliberately target that. Probably inadvertent, one odd round going this way. Nobody in a sane mind would like to target a nuclear storage facility. For it could go anyway. So you don't do it deliberately. So, but good, they told us there's a facility there. Next time they'll take care about that.
Okay, Ambassador Sinha, this nuclear overhang, the Prime Minister tried to challenge it. Do you think we've buried it? Do you think we've shown that kinetic action is very easily possible under the threshold? Or do you think that our hands are tied, though the Prime Minister is saying nobody can tie our hands, but real politics, sometimes behind the scenes, hard negotiations do go on. You know that from your own experience of handling Pakistan and also handling the world. Is this nuclear blackmail that is being called out, is this going to be enough to bury this or get rid of this nuclear overhang that Pakistan always brings to the conversation?
I think, Barkha, the nuclear bogey has been firmly put to rest. Now, because the nuclear saber rattling or the nuclear overhang under which Pakistan indulges in these activities, terrorist activities or whatever, that myth, has been exploded to a very large extent. However, Pakistan is a nuclear power, and they do not follow a no first use doctrine. So obviously, we have to be wary that we don't push them so far that they have no option, or at least try and unleash their nuclear weapons. So I think but clearly there is a lot of room for maneuver and counteraction before that happens, and this operation has clearly proved it. The other point I'd like to mention, you mentioned about West harping on the nuclear. Strangely, when Vice President J.D. Vance spoke to our Prime Minister, he talked about a bigger conflagration, but never used the word nuclear. So obviously that must have been a fear lurking the back, but he didn't articulate it at all to the Prime Minister. And that's why the Prime Minister gave a very appropriate reply. that if they attack us, we will attack them even in a much harder. अगर वो गोली मारते हैं तो हम गोला मारेंगे.
Gola marenge. Right.
So it's very clear that this nuclear overhang has limited shelf life in terms of being used as a cover for covert operations against India.
Brigadier Thapar, is your hand go up?
Yeah. What I want to add to this is that, see, this nuclear threat is not against India. When Pakistan says you got nuclear, it's not against India, because it knows we've also got nuclear weapons, and if they throw two, our Punjab may go, but then we'll make sure Pakistan doesn't exist. It is for the Americans and the Chinese and the world to say, dekho, see, do nuclear, so that they come in and put pressure on India to retract or go back. So it's not meant for as a threat to India.
Absolutely. Now, in the end, I've been trying in my own way to really argue India's perspective on Western platforms that sometimes invite me to speak. And I was invited to debate Hina Rabbani Khar on Piers Morgan's show. I haven't been calling any Pakistanis to my show, but I thought, okay, Piers Morgan has a big audience. Let's do this. I'm going to play out two different clips for you. One is the end, and then I'll play you the beginning. And all I'm asking her repeatedly is, can you tell me if you accept that the Lashkar and the Jaish-e-Mohammed are terror groups? So she again starts criticizing Modi. She starts criticizing the BJP, in response to which I say the following. Take a look. Yeah, I'm going to ignore Shehzad's infantile comments and focus on what I want to say. It doesn't matter whether you in Pakistan like or don't. Can I speak, please? It doesn't matter whether you like or don't like Prime Minister Modi. He is an elected Prime Minister of India in his third term. Unlike the Prime Ministers of Pakistan, who are appointed by the army, jailed or exiled. Your country is in turmoil because you have jailed Imran Khan. Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif, his brother, who's the present Prime Minister, is an appointee of the army. Before that,
Are we here
Nawaz
to
Sharif
listen to Barkha's version of Pakistan's internal politics? Is that the purpose of this?
You commented, ma'am, you commented on my country's internal politics. I am responding
I commented on the Gujarat.
I am responding,
and I would be very
Let's talk about
humbled
Khwaja
to
Asif.
be corrected on that.
There's your defense minister. You know what your defense minister said on television? Yes, we did support.
I told you, I'm not a journalist. I don't have
Ma'am, you're interrupting me. Ma'am, I did not interrupt you. Grant me the same civility.
Please
I did not interrupt.
Please go ahead.
Khwaja Asif, whose picture Ranveer held up, said in an interview to Sky News that indeed Pakistan had used terrorism as to do the dirty job. I guess Hina couldn't tolerate the truth. Maybe she just left. Khwaja Asif said on Sky News that Pakistan used to do the dirty job for other countries by using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Bilawal Bhutto said on the same channel, indeed, Pakistan has a past. Through this entire conversation, neither Pakistani has answered, are the Lashkar and the Jaish terror groups or not? And if they are, why are they allowed to function openly in Murki and Bahawalpur, where Indian action was taken against terror bases and terror bases alone? And a last point, Prime Minister Modi did try dialogue with Pakistan. He went to visit Nawaz Sharif in his home in Lahore. He invited Nawaz Sharif when he was sworn in as Prime Minister the first time. All of that came to naught because Pakistan's entire existence seems to be to conduct a proxy war against India. India would love to ignore Pakistan. India wants nothing Pakistan has. If Pakistan would stop inflicting terrorism on our country, we would be quite happy to never engage with them ever again. Right. So she basically left. And I want some comments, but then I'll play out even a different clip where I keep telling her, is the Lashkar, I keep asking her, is the Lashkar terror group? Is the Lashkar terror group? Is the Lashkar? And she just doesn't answer. Now, my point is a little bit different. Okay, I had this debate with her, she left. The world has been impacted, Ambassador Sinha, by the Lashkar-e-Taiba, right? There are 6 Americans that died in 26/11. It traces back to the Lashkar-e-Taiba. Daniel Pearl's abductor Omar Said Sheikh was released when IC-814 was hijacked. His father has been speaking, including to us, about not getting justice for his son 23 years later, right? So the point I'm making is sooner or later, these terror groups are going to impact the rest of the world as well. They are recognized to be terror groups by the rest of the world. Why is the world allowing this? Why is the world framing this in terms of a dispute over Kashmir?
Barkha, first of all, congratulations on a wonderful show. I saw 50 minutes of it. All 50 minutes of it was really well done. No, as in response to your question, I think I wouldn't like to say the world, but the West certainly.
Yeah, sorry, not the world, but a large part of the Western media in particular, and some Western governments.
Absolutely.
I should correct myself. Yeah.
Double standards. When Israel goes in and flattens Gaza, that is their right. They've been attacked, etc. Which I understand the October 7 heinous attacks on Israel. But when India does something, it's different. Why? I think we have to go back because Pakistan, and I said that earlier in one of the shows, has been spawned as an illegitimate child of the Brits and the West in general. And right from the beginning, whether it was Seato, Cento, etc., they joined these packs as allies of the West, trying to counter the Soviet Union. And I don't want to trace the history, but all of us are aware. But what I'm trying to say is that narrative which has been set, that Pakistan is a nuclear power, everybody knows it is a terrorist state, yet nobody is prepared to do anything about it beyond paying lip service. For instance, I would think that we should declare Pakistan as a terrorist state, and many countries should follow suit. But it's not going to happen. We know that because it has support, if I could call it that, despite the fact it's a rogue state, it has support among in the Western capitals, whether it's London, Washington. Maybe that support is diminishing, but it is still there. And I think the only way to counter it is if India, the way it grows, and it becomes like the UK FTA. Now, the India-UK FTA, have you seen the statements from London? I'd expected a Labour government to be far more forthright, if not condemn India, at least stronger statements. They haven't, because the FTA seemed to have shut them up a bit. So I think we should use that leverage to try and change the narrative in the West.
Right. Sorry, Rajat, give me just a second because I'm just keen to play out just a little one more clip, which I think you all will enjoy. Hina Rabani Khar said on the program, we don't want to be hyphenated with India. And I found that hilarious. Like we are looking to be hyphenated with Pakistan. It is actually like dealing with cuckoo land. Like that's actually what it feels like sometimes talking to these people. I'm just going to play one more clip and last comments from all of you. Take a look. A statement and a question. Hina said that Pakistan does not seek any equivalence with India, any parallels with India. There can be none. Pakistan just got bailed out by the IMF with a loan for $1 billion. The IMF projects India to be the fourth largest economy in the world. India would love to ignore Pakistan if we could. India seeks no hyphenation with Pakistan either. I have two questions for Hina Rabani Khar. One is, does she acknowledge the Lashkar-e-Taiba, recognized to be a terrorist group by the United States and the United Kingdom, recognized to be the group responsible for the Mumbai terror attacks of 26/11 in which 6 Americans died? Does she recognize both these groups to be terror groups? And if she does, can she explain why they have never conducted a single terror strike within Pakistan and have only conducted terror strikes in India? My second question to Hina Rabani Khar is, what did she feel about the Americans coming in and taking out Osama bin Laden from Abbottabad, where he was given a safe space to stay? If she did not think the Americans conducted an act of war against Pakistan then, she should not think that the Indians striking the bases of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed prescribed internationally recognized terror groups should be considered something that Pakistan has to worry about. Pakistan should thank India. Okay. We helped you demolish terror groups.
All right, let me get the response then. Hina, your response.
Are the Lashkar and Jaish terrorist groups? She didn't answer the question.
No.
Does she acknowledge that the Lashkar and the Jaish are terrorist groups that have freedom to function in Pakistan? Please answer the question.
Well, let me do. I think that's
This
a
is
legitimate
the
question.
narrative
Hina,
you've been
do you
cooking up
accept
for the
that
last
point,
20
Hina?
years. I will not stoop myself down to answering any such questions.
Are they terrorist groups?
Hina, do you accept? Hina, do you accept they are a terrorist
Probably
group?
what you want to look at.
Well, Hina, let me ask the question.
I think you need to bring
Hina,
some
let me
discipline in
ask the
this
question, Hina.
Yes,
do you
please.
accept that
Would
they
you
are a
like to do
terrorist
that?
group? And do you accept that they have been operating with impunity in Pakistan? I mean, that's...
I think your last comment, I would absolutely reject. I think Pakistan is the country which is trying to correct the wrongs. India is the country which is trying to do the wrongs. There's a vast difference. You can narrative shape as much as you want and build these lovely stories about, So okay, Pierre, how about me saying that I believe India is a country which has weaponized terrorism to be able to get the sympathies of the world to work outside of international law. We're able to sit down and resolve it.
Okay, listen. Okay, hang on.
I mean, it's bizarre. Like, she cannot answer the question. As much airtime as I had on that show, I used to ask her this question. Let's take last comments. Rajat, I'll start with you. When you have a country that says, I'm not going to answer whether the Lashkar and Jaish are terror groups, how do you engage? How do you engage in any format?
Any sane mind, she used the word weaponizing terrorism. I want to understand, what does weaponizing terrorism mean? Terrorists are already weaponized. They are blowing up everywhere in every corner of our country. What does it even mean? See, this country, and I tweeted about it, it's a geopolitical errand boy. There are certain, you require a theater to experiment your weapons, cutting edge technology, all of that. Let Pakistanis die. The problem is, since this jihad army, this conglomerate which has this entire complex which has grown in to such levels, the space
Rajat, we're losing you.
for civilians has shrunk.
Yeah.
The civilians, over this long duration of this jihad military complex, has now extended to such a level, and it has penetrated into the thinking of every single household. This is where Prime Minister says very important line, and I think one thing which did not get discussed much. He says that this hyphenation that Pakistan used.
Okay, hang on. You have a terrible network. Yeah. Rajat, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you. Right.
Yeah.
Let me summarize what I think you were saying, because you're on a really bad network. You basically said that the civilians we couldn't hear you very well.
Yes.
But I think you were making the point about the jihad military complex that has basically in the end hurt the people of Pakistan. And one of the shocking things that Pakistan did, by the way, in this last week, is that it used civilian planes as human shields as retaliation against Indian action, which means that they were pretty much ready to even endanger the lives of their own people. Let's get last comments in. Brigadier Thapar and then Ambassador Sinha. Brigadier Thapar. Can we unmute Brigadier Thapar? Hang on, sir. Can we unmute him?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We will be fooling ourselves if we think that Operation Sindoor 1-2, the Prime Minister's the Modi doctrine, is going to keep Pakistan quiet. Maybe 2-3 years, it'll repeat this. Because for whatever reason, whether Trump interfered and got the ceasefire before we could give them adequate punishment, or whatever reason, but the deterrence doesn't seem to be there at the moment. So I personally feel that what we need to do is create that deterrence in next couple of years, so that Pakistan is scared of doing that. At the moment, it's not. And if the present parity stays, it'll do this thing again and again. I have no doubts about that.
Ambassador Sinha, I think that takes us to the sort of elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room has been addressed by the Prime Minister yesterday and today. He has said clearly, if you do this again, we will retaliate. I think that much is now clear, that there is going to be a response, and there isn't going to be a, you know, a necessarily only non-kinetic exploration anymore in the aftermath of terror attacks. So, but Pakistan being dysfunctional, counting on the fact that the West will eventually bail it out for whatever reasons that we don't necessarily understand, might try this again. So where do we stand right now? Are we entering, or are we back to, let's say, the year 2000, 1999, that time when it was a period of prolonged conflict with Pakistan, the LOC was aflame, there were terror attacks, your internal security grid had to be sort of recalibrated to that. Where do we stand today?
Barkha, as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think the messaging is very clear. And our new doctrine of hitting back against any terrorist attacks has also been heard loud and clear. However, as you said, Pakistan being Pakistan, one doesn't know what it will do. The last time there was a major attack in Pulwama and we responded with Balakot, there was 6 years of, relatively, there were hardly any major terrorist attacks during this period. That deterrence had worn off. As a result, what we had Pahalgam. But our response to Pahalgam has been far more robust than any of the other responses that we've given to Pakistan. So I think the only problem is in the equation is Asim Munir, because Asim Munir, as long as he's there with a jihadi mindset, one really can't predict what he will be up to. And it's, actually not just Asim Munir, a cohort of generals, but he perhaps is among the worst. So I think there has to be some realization in GHQ that they can't take on India. And even if they want to, they will all, and they can sell fake narratives. By the way, what Hina Rabbani Khan, I forgot to mention, of all the pictures behind me of all the world leaders that I have met, I have one of Hina Rabbani Khan and a late leader, Benazir Bhutto, which I shall promptly remove now. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Pakistan has got the message, but whether it will heed the message or not is not clear. I do hope they heed the message, because they should know that the consequences would be disastrous. So if better sense prevails, and I wish we, as you said in the Piers Morgan show, I wish we could just ignore. We want to ignore Pakistan. We don't want anything to do with them. They can't give us anything that we don't have or that we can't get from elsewhere. So frankly, if we could seal off the borders and exist without geographical
engagement,
map, that would be fine by us. But for them, it's not that. They need to. Their whole existence is on a anti-India platform or agenda. So I think we should be prepared that this deterrence that we've established may not last for too long. I hope it does. But if it doesn't last for too long, then the response is quite clear. It will be kinetic, it will be robust, and it could be very debilitating for a country that is already going under.
I will just say in the end that when I watched our military briefing and then contrasted it with Pakistan's, it actually tells you everything you need to know about how differently the countries have evolved. The restraint, the poise, the dignity, the humor in our military briefing, and words like jihad being used by a professional army on the other side, just absolutely terrible. Tells you everything you need to know. Thank you, gentlemen, to Brigadier Thapar, to Ambassador Sinha, earlier to Rajat Sethi. A special shout out, as always, for our armed forces, but also for many people who you do not get to see in front of the cameras, whose job it is to work in the shadows. A special shout out to all of them in particular this evening. Tonight and the next few nights are going to be critical. Pakistan's pinpricks, yes, but how will we respond? Will the pinpricks continue? Will they peter out? Many, many questions, and we will try and answer them as much as we can. Thank you, take care, and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Voter Story and support independent, robust journalism.